Hi everyone, and welcome to Market Audience and Social Research, SPSS, Workshop number 2. I'm Kelly Koff, and in today's workshop, I'll take you through how to prepare files and enter data into SPSS. So this will show you how to set up the SPSS spreadsheet with the data and the variable views so that you're ready to enter in some data, and we'll do that later. First of all, what I want you to do is open SPSS. If you can't remember how to do this, just head back and watch the tutorial number 1. Okay, with SPSS open, I want you just to click the variable view. So the survey, if you have a look at it, it actually has 13 questions, but that means there's 17 variables because questions 6, 9, 10 and 13 actually consist of 2 parts. So when we get to that, I'll show you how to deal with that. But in the meantime, the first thing that I want you to do is to click on the first cell here, which says name on number 1. So just double click on that and type in a unique variable name for the first question. I'm just going to call mine Q1 for question 1. Then I'm going to hit enter. So straight away what happens there is SPSS is automatically putting in the defaults for me. So what I'm going to do now is take you through each of these sections for this variable. For the type, have a look at what options are available to you. Just by clicking on numeric and those 3 dots there, that ellipsis will open up a menu. So here's where you can change your variable type. So you've got numeric, comma, dot, scientific notation, date, dollar, custom currency, string, and restricted numeric. We want this variable to be numeric because we're going to put some numbers in to code that data. The width here is the width of the column. The decimal is how many decimal points there are. So we can change that to 0. And the label, we'll just stretch that out a bit. This is the label for question 1. What I'm going to do here is type in what that first question was. So if we have a look at the question is, what is the full name of the association that ran this last convention? So I'm going to put that label as full name of the association. So where your name is limited to just 8 characters, so in this label column you can have a label that's up to 256 characters, but it's better to keep it simple. The name column though, that first one, has a maximum of 8 characters that you can put into it. Now we want to specify the value for each of the characters. At the moment we have none specified, but we're going to change that by just clicking on values and again going over to these 3 buttons. That opens up a menu for us, and here we can allocate values to each of the labels. So for the first value, which I'm going to allocate to number 1, I'm going to label that as the first respondent's answer, which is the Australian Institute of something. And I'll just put an ellipsis there. So now I'm going to add that. For the second respondent though, I'll put the value of 2 and I'll label this as Foundation Australia. So this is just I'm just taking this data from the second survey, then adding that. The third value is the response from the third survey, and this is the Institute of Australia. And just adding that. So now the 3 surveys that I have all have different options there, and I've put that in each one. Another way that you'd be able to deal with a question like this is to change that variable as a string variable, but we're hoping there's a limited number of foundations or institutes in this data set, so I'll set it up like this. Next we're going to move across to missing. So this is where missing values are assigned. So it's quite rare to obtain a complete data set for all cases. More often than not, you'll have some people responding to a survey in some questions and leaving answers out for the other. So when you're dealing with missing data, this is where you can specify what SPSS does with that missing data. You can assign a value, and that value needs to be aligned with what type of data it is. So if the type is a numeric data type, then you need to assign a number. It's usually 9. But for today's exercise, we're just going to keep this as blank. Then we come across and specify our columns. Again, we're going to leave that as the default. The alignment, we'll leave that as right aligned. So having a look at what kind of measurement this is. Our respondents are nominating what association ran the convention last time. So because they're nominating that, we'll put that as nominal data. So finally, in the measure column, this is where you can specify what type of data you're dealing with for each of the variables. So in the measure column, this is where we specify what type of data we're dealing with for each of the variables. So our options here are scale, ordinal, or nominal. So nominal is for data that you have to nominate which category you're going in, sometimes called categorical data, and that's what we're going to choose for question 1. Okay, now we've gone through the first question. What I want you to do is work your way through the other questions. You can go question by question across each of the rows, or you can go down each column and fill in the blanks. There's no right or wrong way, whatever way is easier for you. I'm going to keep my question names consistent. So my second question, I'll put as question 2. Now that I've assigned a name to each of my questions, I'll come over and fill in the labels. Now that we've completed our labels, we need to go through and have a look at our values. So for question 3, we can see that the question says, is membership in the association primarily held by individuals, organisations, or both? Tick one box only. So respondents there can tick individuals, organisations, both individuals and organisations, or don't know. So we'll come up here and we'll put those responses in. So we're going to assign value 1 for the first one there, individuals. Value 2, I'll assign to organisations. Value 3 to both. Value 4 to don't know. What I like to do when I'm working with SPSS, I like to have these options in order that they're presented in the survey. It can make things easier in the long term. I'm just going to hit OK to that. Our next question there, before we move on, we'll change this measure to nominal. There we go. Question 4 is looking at how many members. So we won't have values for that, but we will change this to a scale. Same with how many attendees. Principal geographic coverage though. Question 6. What is the principal geographic coverage of the association's primary aims? Tick just one box that best describes the association. Here the options are international, national, state-based, local or regional, and other. Please describe. So we'll assign a value to each of these options. So I'm going to put other please describe there as an option that can be selected. And then we can see our question 6a there is other please describe. So this one we want to change this to a string variable because we won't be doing any calculations on that. We'll come back here and change this to a nominal variable though. Then question 7, we have the age of the association. Change this to a scale. Same with number of conventions held. Then we have existence of a policy for question 9. Here we have yes, no, and don't know. So what we have for here for yes, if you click on that again, we'll just extend that to if yes, please describe. And then question 9 will change to a string variable because that will be our description. And we'll change over here to a nominal data. Then we'll look at question 10, describe your relationship. For value 1 here we have employed by the association. We'll add that. And value 2, employed by a convention management consultant that serves the association. So I'll just put CMC. And then 3, other please specify. And then we'll add that one in. We can hit OK. So we'll change this to nominal. And then our second question there for question 10, or second part of question 10, we'll change that to a string variable with other please specify. Then we have question 11, the number of years experience. Change that to a scale. Question 12 though is gender. On our list here we have female as the first option and male as the second option. So I'll just pop those two in. Make sure that's nominal data. And then question 13 is please indicate if you're a member of any of the following organisations involved with conventions or association management. You may tick more than one box. So what I'm going to do with this one is put the value 1 for the first one there, which is MIAA, value 2, value 3, PCMA, add that one in, value 4, ASAE, add that one, value 5, MPI, add that one in, value 6, we have as a convention and visitors bureau. and then asking to specify which one. So we'll add that in. And then change this also to nominal data. Okay, now that we've repeated that procedure until all of the 17 variables of the survey have been defined, now we're going to continue on with the workshop. So we'll go to entering some data. This is question 12. So we're going to return to the data view, which is this one here, and you can see right across the top here, we've already got our questions. Okay, so now what we're going to do is enter in some data. So you'll need the surveys for this. So the first survey, question 1, the respondent there has answered the Australian Institute of something. It's been cut off there so we can't really read it. But if you double click in this field now, you'll see a drop down and you can find the Australian Institute. There we go. Moving on to question 2, this respondent has answered yes. So double click, find yes. For question 3, they've answered individuals. For question 4, they've answered 2000. For question 5, there's answered 500. So I'll just put those numbers in. Now what we can do here, we can see question 4 and question 5 have decimal places in there. We don't really need those, so we can come back to the variable view and change those here under the decimal column. So question 4 will bring that decimal down to 0, and question 5 will bring it down to 0. Then we'll change back to the data view, and you can see that those decimal places are now removed. Then for question 6, this respondent has answered national. Question 7, they've answered 39 years. Question 8, 14. Question 9, they've answered yes. Question 10, they've answered other, but they haven't specified. Question 11, they've answered 3. Question 12, they've answered female. And question 13, they haven't answered at all. So now I just want you to work through those other 2 surveys. Okay, so question 10, when we get the drop down for that, we see employed by, and other, please specify. This is when you put those codings in order of what's on the survey. It makes it really easy for you to see that this person is chosen employed by the association, which is the first choice. So we can choose that first choice there. We know that it's employed by the association. Okay, so now we've finished inputting those 3 surveys. You can see what those respondents have answered. Now, if you remember from week 1, we went to view, value labels, and we clicked that on. So now we're going to click that off, and this is what SPSS reads. So just doing that again, view, value labels, and that will change that. Okay, so the last thing that I want to take you through today is just inserting a new variable or inserting a new case. To insert a new case, just click on the case that you want to insert above or below. Right click on your mouse and go to Insert Cases. That's going to let you put a new case in there in between the 2 that you've just selected. Putting in a new variable is the same thing. So just clicking on the variable, I want one here. right clicking, going down to insert variable. And there we have a new variable that's been inputted there. If we come back to data view and see that variable's just here. Okay, so that's it for today. Make sure that you save your spreadsheet. So going to save as, file, save as. Save it as your first name, your second name, and week 2. Save that and upload it to the LMS. Fantastic. See you next week.